Okay, so here we have this pretty red and gold book called The Magic Story. You can see this gold decoration they have on the cover here, showing an open book with a candle burning next to it there. Nothing on the spine or the back of the book, but it's a pretty small book. It's about the size of my hand or so. The edges are a little bit worn, as you can see there. And let's open it up. So we just got one flyleaf there, and then a small title, The Magic Story, with this really pretty font there. And then the title page, we've got a quote. It says, "If you have skill, apply it. The world must profit by it, and therefore you." The title here, The Magic Story, showing that open book again. It says by Frederick van Rensselaer, and it's published by Success, the Human magazine. And this is sort of like a kind of like a self-help story, I guess. It's the 8th edition. You can see the copyright is from 1924, so just about 100 years old. And then this is the table of illustrations here. So this book is telling the story of a sort of wonderful magic story that was found that guarantees whoever reads it will become successful. This is the first illustration there, showing a man walking into a cafe. It says, "I was sitting alone in the cafe and had just reached for the sugar preparatory to putting it into my coffee. Outside, the weather was hideous. Snow and sleet came swirling down, and the wind howled frightfully. Every time the outer door opened, a draught of unwelcome air penetrated the uttermost corners of the room. Still, I was comfortable. The snow and sleet and wind conveyed nothing to me except an abstract thanksgiving that I was where it could not affect me. While I dreamed and sipped my coffee, the door opened and closed and admitted Sturtevant." So Sturtevant is the man walking through the door there. And all around these pages, there's these sort of border decorations. So it says, "Yes," he continued when I did not reply, "my fortune is made. I have been reading a strange story, and since reading it, I feel that my fortune is assured. It will make your fortune too. All you have to do is read it. You have no idea what it will do for you. Nothing is impossible after you know that story. It makes everything as plain as A, B, C. The very instant you grasp its true meaning, success is certain. This morning I was a hopeless, aimless bit of garbage in the metropolitan ash can. Tonight I wouldn't change places with a millionaire. That sounds foolish, but it is true. The millionaire has spent his enthusiasm. Mine is all at hand." So Sturtevant has read this story and is saying it's going to make him successful. And here we have another image. It says, "He, after scanning the bill of fare leisurely, ordered from it carelessly." And you can see the two men at the table there in the cafe. And here it says, "It must be a remarkable story," I said, incredulously. "Sturtevant mentioned it to me once. I have not seen him since. Where is he now?" "He has been making war sketches in Cuba at 200 a week. He's just returned. It is a fact that everybody that has heard that story has done well since." So they're really hyping up this story that we haven't read any part of yet, and it's sort of just to build the anticipation for what's going to come later in the book. Here we have another illustration. It says, "I found it pasted in an old scrapbook I purchased in Ann Street." And here you can see a bookseller holding a book that's labeled Success. And then there's up here it says Shakespeare volumes, it looks like, sale, rare books. And then at the bottom there's a book that looks like it says Almanac on the top there. So this is just sort of showing the origin of how they found the story. And I don't know much about the magazine that this was printed in. I'm not sure if this is sort of the typical thing they would have in there. Here it says, "I found the story curiously printed." And you can see a little bit of the text on the book he's looking at there. I really like these sort of yellow illustrations. I found the book without difficulty. It was a quaint, homemade affair, covered, as Sturtevant had said, with rawhide and bound with leather thongs. The pages formed an odd combination of yellow paper, vellum, and homemade parchment. I found the story, curiously printed on the last-named material. It was quaint and strange. Evidently the printer had set it under the supervision of the writer. The phraseology was an unusual combination of 17th and 18th century mannerisms, and the interpolation of italics and capitals could have originated in no other brain than that of its author. And here it's going to make a transition to the other story. It says, nothing worthwhile is attainable without effort. By the same token, a thoughtful reading of the magic story and a correct interpretation of its lessons are essential to a full appreciation of its inspirational value. And here we've got a book plate, it looks like, printed in here, and it says, whatsoever you desire of good is yours. You have but to stretch forth your hand and take it. And it says, veritas praevalebit, which I think means the truth will prevail. And then ex libris, which is a common thing to see on a book plate, meaning from the library of. And then part 2 in your old scrapbook, with the books shown there. Here we have another illustration of an old man. Here it says, much have I wearied my brain anent the question how best to describe this recipe for success. And we can see him sitting here with a hourglass, an ink pot, quills, and a candle. The Magic Story Part 2 in the Old Scrapbook. Inasmuch as I have evolved from my experience the one great secret of success for all worldly undertakings, I deem it wise, now that the number of my days is nearly counted, to give to the generations that are to follow me the benefit of whatsoever knowledge I possess. I do not apologize for the manner of my expression, nor for lack of literary merit, the latter being, I wot, its own apology. So this is the actual story that they were talking about in the beginning of the book, supposedly. And it's sort of detailing the story of this person's life and the lessons that they learned along the way about how to be successful. So it says, when I had achieved 10 years, my mother's soul took flight, and 2 years thereafter my worthy father followed her. I, being their only begotten, was left alone, howbeit there were friends who for a time cared for me. That is to say, they offered me a home beneath their roof. And then over here it says, fortune will sometimes smile upon an intended victim because of pure perversity of temper. Such was one of my experiences. And there's some more here. It says, life has many pathways, and of them by far the greater number lead downward. Some are precipitous, others are less abrupt, but ultimately, no matter at what inclination the angle may be fixed, they arrive at the same destination, failure. And here beginneth the third lesson. It says, failure exists only in the grave. Man, being alive, hath not yet failed. Always he may turn about and ascend by the same path he descended by, and there may be one that is less abrupt, albeit longer of achievement, and more adaptable to his condition. So these bits in italics here are supposed to be sort of the lessons that he's taken away from his life experience that lead to success. Here's another illustration showing him in a tavern. It says, I spent my evenings at the tavern. And I think there's supposed to be some sort of moral lesson in here about how he was living, and then he makes a change. Well do I remember my awakening, for it came in the night, when in truth I did awake from sleep. And he has some sort of communication with kind of a higher being or a higher version of himself, which gives him sort of this epiphany. So let's see here. Oh, here's another illustration. It says, I peered into a window and saw that other being. And then over here you can see a dialogue that he has with this. He says, who are you? I ventured to ask, and I was startled into an upright posture by the sound of my own voice, and the question seemed to give pleasure to my companions, that I fancied there was less of derision in his smile when he responded. I am that I am, was the reply. I am he who you have been. I am he who you may be again. Wherefore do you hesitate? I am he who you were and whom you have cast out for other company. I am the man made in the image of God who once possessed your body. Alright, so we're getting pretty close to the end here. This is sort of his kind of final epiphany, and there's one final illustration. It says, I was a successful man and ere long possessed another shipyard. So this is when he starts applying all of his lessons that he's learned, I suppose. And it says here, have no fear of any sort or shape, for fear is an adjunct of the minus entity. So kind of the lower self sort of thing. Yeah, so this is just a interesting little kind of self-help success book called The Magic Story, about 100 years old. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like or a comment and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye.